Welcome to Player Profiler News Primetime. I'm your host, Coach Retzlaff. I'll be with you today. It's been a great day, and we got best ball risers, best ball fallers, and I also have the fallout from Chris Olave, Derek Carr. Derek Carr is going to retire. He's done. He's all set. So as I look at Dynasty Daddy, we have Chris Olave for a 26 second-round pick just went off 3 days ago. Chris Olave and Khalil Herbert for George Pickens and the 25 pick 411. So there you have liquidity with George Pickens. You have 3 days ago Chris Olave and Tucker Kraft for a 25 107 and 25 pick 307. So really the word on Chris Olave is he's been liquid. He's been one of the most traded assets, commodities in fantasy football. You also have, here's another one, Chris Olave for Jaden Reed and Rico Dowdle. So you kind of have this market of players people are unsure of, right? And Chris Olave fits that bill to a T. Now, Derek Carr retired. Last year, I had a take on Derek Carr that he would end up retired or, out of the league in a couple of years. Essentially that he was just souped up Ryan Tannehill and that it wouldn't be too long. And I wasn't necessarily sure he would be out of the league and it would play out this way. But sure enough, we have it. Derek Carr's career is finished. I've always been somebody who doesn't quite like Derek Carr. I'm not the biggest fan. And I just got to say, Derek Carr, I wish you the best. He's a very good player. He had a good career. He wasn't my favorite, but I just have to give him homage to the fact that while I didn't love him as a fantasy football player, while I was frustrated with Chris Olave, the unrealized air yards, I blame a lot of that on Derek Carr. And there's people who are truthers for Derek Carr, so I got to give them respect there. But at the end of the day, this guy had a good NFL career. He's done more than I could with his own pinky. He's got that much talent. So props to Derek Carr. We don't love these players based on some of their ADP, some of their price points. Maybe it is a skill issue where we have problems with some players. But at the end of the day, it's a game. And Derek Carr, congratulations on a very good career. Looks like he left a lot of money on the table. I think $30 million. I saw Andrew Brandt tweet out there. So hat tip to him if he's really walking away from that. Know when to hold him, know when to fold him. We'll see if there's any injury recovery as far as money later on down the line. I saw a clip of Derek Carr's last play, and it looked like it really impacted his shoulder. But in the meantime, I would be going out, see how liquid this Chris Olave market is. Go acquire some Chris Olave. Really, it's not mental for Chris Olave. It's just literally his brain with the concussions that he's had, where you hope he can manage his health there, sort of like Tua Tagovailoa. So take advantage of that. And I expect there to be some liquidity in the market for Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara, people were rejoicing, hey, Derek Carr is retired. This is great for Chris Olave. But on the other end, when you make a choice for one thing, you're choosing against another. Well, cause and effect. Alvin Kamara was such a beneficiary of the dump-offs from Alvin Kamara. So, from Derek Carr. So Derek Carr, he retires. It's not the best for Alvin Kamara, but I still think you're going to see liquidity. You go on the sites like Dynasty Daddy, and you're going to see plenty of trades for Alvin Kamara, just like Chris Olave. There's some uncertainty, and you can really take advantage of that in the best ball markets, in the trade markets. And as I segue over to talk about some winners, some ADP risers, there's crossover in the dynasty game. So as I talk about different players, there's George Pickens, who we'll talk about later. He's a riser. He's on this graphic for Dynasty Daddy, the biggest bubble there. There's all sorts of George Pickens deals out there. Same thing for Chris Olave, DK Metcalf. Well, what's the cause and effect there? DK Metcalf is the only show in town now for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then, of course, we'll see Pat Freiermuth, number 2 option in the Steelers offense. You look for the cheat code for tight ends. Can they be the top 2 option in your offense? Pat Freiermuth absolutely fits that bill. So let's roll through just some players. I've got on Bestball Explorer. It's a free tool. It's called the Solver, and it just shows risers, fallers. You can break it down into rookies, into sophomores, or all players. So we're just going to look at all the risers. Roschon Johnson. This is on Underdog. ADP change, 34 spots up in the last week. So Roschon has gone from early 18th round to the early 15th round. 3-round jump. That late in the draft, it's not as much of a weighted effect. Round 15, you're still hoping that player may hit your lineup 2, 3, or 4 times if you're lucky. Those late teens picks don't hardly hit your lineup. Some interesting stats that I read through today, though, on Roschon Johnson. 10th in fantasy points per opportunity at 103 last year. 6 touchdowns in 2024. Nothing special. But Roschon, 13th in expected added at plus 10.5. You've got DeAndre Swift, Kyle Monangai there. The new shiny toy is Kyle Monangai. We expect him to get opportunity. We hear all this blitz pickup talk. DeAndre Swift could be fickle with injury or get outplayed. People want to jump the ship with Kyle Monangai. I would just say, look for Roschon Johnson. It's not going to be sexy, but here in the 15th round, it's still palatable for some of your builds, your Bears builds. And then, of course, you're just trying to get an upside cuff player. Right now, I would say pecking order, it's DeAndre Swift, and then followed by Roschon Johnson, and then third, Kyle Monangai. Of course, how it starts is not how it finishes. So I really like Roschon Johnson. Shout out to Chuck Bass. He took him somewhere in the 20th plus round of our Dynasty startup that we had. And then I had another one with the Player Profiler Gauntlet, which is a gauntlet. Tons of sharp players in there. I was able to get myself some Roschon in the mid 20 rounds late. So I've got a little bit of hope there. And that stat about fantasy points per opportunity really stood out to me for Roschon. We'll see if we can get a larger volume and if that would still hold and stick for Roschon Johnson. Next up, Jaden Blue. No one's excited about Miles Sanders, Javonte Williams. Jaden Blue is that shiny new toy, up 34 spots. Jaden Blue, late 14th round, now in the early 12th round. Let's go to Austin Eckler. He shifted up near 20 spots, early round 16 to the mid 14th. Eckler receiving EPX, 4th for running back explosiveness, number 1 in yards per reception at 10.5, 3rd in yards per route run, 5th in fantasy points per opportunity at 1.12. 1st in yards per touch, Austin Eckler. Sneakily was an RB3. He can pay off at this ADP. I don't love it. There's no capped, there's no ceiling. There's a cap there. So I think that's what's going to make people reticent on clicking Austin Eckler. Back to the Bears, DeAndre Swift shows up on this risers list. He's a winner. Up 19.4 spots, middle of round 9 to late round 7. It's starting to get a little expensive. It's starting to smell a little bit bad there for DeAndre Swift. But at the same time, the Bears are going to be very, very trendy. I was listening to Man vs. Machine, Bradley Stalder, Ryan Reynolds. They were talking about it this morning. I'm at the gym getting a good pump, and I'm listening to all their propaganda about Caleb Williams, and I am right there with them. I love that. So if we're in on Caleb Williams, we got to be in on our Bears in best ball. DeAndre Swift was a low-end RB2 last year, 42 catches and 6 in explosive rate for running backs, a survivor of the NFL draft. Jack Betch for the market on Betch. This is simply gamers realizing how much the Raiders will pass with Geno Smith. Jack Betch is not going to be a reliable weapon week in, week out. Let your best ball lineup solve that for you. Up 19.3 spots in the last week. Early round 13, middle of round 11. Noticing a theme, a lot of these risers are players who have had fallout, of course, from the George Pickens trade, but then also rookies who have gotten good landing spots. And then you have people who have survived. Roschon, Austin Eckler, DeAndre Swift. They survived the draft. Speaking of another survivor, Brian Robinson of the Commanders. 18.8 spots up in the last week on Underdog. Or late round 9 to early round 8. That's starting to feel a little bit expensive too for Brian Robinson. With Robinson, touchdown equity is what he's going to go for. He was 24th in explosive rating, 35th in yards per touch. So really, he has to get there through touchdown volume. So that's the selling point on Brian Robinson, that hopefully he will have a little bit more of a touchdown ceiling in 2025. Now, you're trying to figure out things for Bestball. You're trying to figure things out for Dynasty. If there was only something that could help you, let's hear from the Podfather.
Hey, what if I told you there was a Dynasty app where you could get player lifetime values, evaluate trades, including draft picks out to 2028, compare the advanced metrics of 2 players, look up the sentiment, buy, sell, hold on players? Well, there is a mobile app that has all of that and more called the Dynasty Dominator, and it's $5 in the App Store on Google Play. This is my gift to you, the most affordable Dynasty League domination app available today. And if you already have it, the 2025 class is ready to download. Let's go!
Get all the edge you need with Player Profiler. We have plenty of tools available to you. Something that is in the works is the Player Profiler Draft Kit. That'll be out in June. So be ready. All rundown of 32 NFL teams, player blurbs for the top 300 players. I'll stop talking about it, but I am teasing it. It's going to be very good. I've already read some team write-ups. Very good team here at Player Profiler working on that. Let's go next to the hottest show in town, George Pickens, up 17.9 spots, early round 7 to late round 5. That is just going to keep torching up. George Pickens is going to keep rising up the board. 3rd in explosive rating, 4th in deep targets. The Cowboys were 4th in team pass attempts per game. So this lines up. George Pickens was also 6th in air yard share. Only 59 catches for Pickens, 103 targets last year. I really see the quality of targets to increase from Dak Prescott to George Pickens, and the routes that CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, they don't overlap near enough to where you should be worried about everybody eating. CeeDee Lamb, safely a round 1 player, but if you look over at George Pickens going in the late round 5, I don't see how that doesn't get up to at least early round 4, maybe late round 3 come August. We like to be anticipatory on things, and I see that market shifting for George Pickens. It's only going to get hotter. If you think, oh, well, there'll be like a let up and I'll just get some kind of a bonus, a discount out there, it's not going to happen. Underdog, I saw somebody tweet on X today, it's the most sharp it's ever been. And I really do feel like that. Even there's players who will be overpriced, but they have high upside, like DJ Moore in the early round 4. That's right about the point where you like to go for somebody else, but you want to ride the ride. You got to go and select him. Travis Hunter, same thing, going way early in these drafts. But if you want to be a part of that Travis Hunter experience, you need to go click on him. Next up, Michael Wilson. Michael Wilson for the Cardinals. Very sneaky winner. These last few weeks since the NFL draft, it is settling in for best ball drafters. They're seeing Arizona didn't add a Jalen Noel. They didn't add a Luther Burden, somebody complimentary to Trey McBride and Marvin Harrison Jr. We just get the big target in Wilson, mid round 17 to the late round 15. On Michael Wilson, he's just 2 seasons of roughly living in the 550s for receiving yards. So that's not going to do it. And he's been under 5 touchdowns in each season. We like to think of Michael Wilson as a good big target in the red zone, but his touchdown equity, the receiving yardage, really hasn't been there. Easy to say, Michael Wilson, best ball only, probably just correlated with Cardinals stacks. And then with the schedule that's leaking and coming out, you can go out and get yourself some Michael Wilson. Now, Trey Harris, next up 16.2 spots in the last week on Underdog. Late 10th round to the middle of the 9th. He's in the single digits. There's always this pendulum for players when they go double digits to single digits. It starts getting slower and slower, that rise, unless something huge happens and maybe there's an injury and Divergently, there's upside. The cuff goes all the way into the single rounds. But Trey Harris is now into that single round part of the draft. It's going to be tougher and slower for Trey Harris to keep moving up and climbing because the players just get better. So the route tree, speaking of the Cowboys, route tree for CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, for Lab McConkey and Trey Harris, they don't overlap. They complement each other very well. To me, this is just a cheaper version, ADP-wise, of the Cowboys. You're getting Trey Harris here in mid-round 9, where George Pickens, as the second receiver on the team, is going in the late 5th, and it's only going to go higher. Trey Harris is not going to catch near enough of that fire that George Pickens is getting in Dallas. And with Trey Harris, I really liken him to, it's kind of like a shower thought that I had. During the day, I'll be thinking of fantasy football narratives, and there'll be a thought that comes to me. And one of those thoughts was Trey Harris is going to be who the Chargers wanted Mike Williams to be. Now, remember, at his height, Mike Williams was a 3rd-round pick in redraft. It's a long way from that. Right now, Trey Harris, though, goes in the middle of round 9. So if you have some of that ideology, some of that faith and belief that Herbert is going to have Trey Harris be the Mike Williams who we wanted, minus the injuries, and maybe falling from the top rope like he's in wrestling onto the ground for every catch, we'll have Trey Harris be exactly what we wanted in Mike Williams. Next up is Mason Taylor. It is settling in that the Jets didn't bring in weapons for Justin Fields. It's going to be a question of whether or not Garrett Wilson can get 101 receptions in 2024. With Mason Taylor up 16 spots in the last week, early round 17 to late round 15. It's not going to kill you to make him your 2nd or 3rd tight end, that being Mason Taylor. I was very high on Mason Taylor. I've got him ranked as my 3rd best tight end. Granted, this year, I think, if I recall correctly, my Dynasty ranks over on FSAN, I had Mason Taylor 3rd. But then for seasonal ranks, I've got Elijah Arroyo 3rd because I really think Elijah Arroyo can do damage. Great tight end class, great champagne problem to have. Next up, RJ Harvey. He's a riser for obvious reason. I'm just waiting for Harvey and Omarion Hampton's ADPs to mirror each other. Hampton is a better talent, but RJ Harvey could absolutely be set up much better in 2024, believe it or not, than Omarion Hampton. You have Najee Harris, who goes right around round 10. Najee Harris is going to be a thorn in the side of Omarion Hampton in 2025. Hampton's the guy. Don't get me wrong. Don't get it twisted. But for right now, short of a veteran coming in for RJ Harvey, it's unadulterated opportunity. Up 15.6 spots is RJ Harvey in the last week, late round 6 to the middle of the 5th. I'm looking for, to me, the line is going to be Harvey and Hampton, and I would just keep clicking Harvey all the way up to Hampton, and then it's just going to go back and forth between those two. And then next up, Kyle Williams. He's getting Drake May as your quarterback. That solves everything. He was not, Kyle Williams, hyped up near enough in the draft process. It was kind of like in the middle, too late. Shout out to Chris Sims. And then our very own Chev. Chev was really big on him. So you love to see the validation through the Patriots picks there. Next up is Isiah Pacheco, up 15.2 spots, late round 9 to the middle of the 8th. Now we do have Brashard Smith coming in round 7. And I've talked about the round 7 equity of Isiah Pacheco a few years ago. Round 7 equity of Brashard Smith, and thinking, hey, there's even level for both players. But Brashard Smith really fits that Jerick McKinnon role. And then Isiah Pacheco just fits a perfect role that he had last year. Now it'll be, can Isiah Pacheco stay healthy and build off what he had prior to his injuries last year? Got to stay on the field. But great pick there. Next, Pat Freiermuth. I talked about him a little bit earlier. The Pickens trade really opens things up for Pat Freiermuth, opposite of DK Metcalf. We want tight ends. It's a cheat code. Look for the tight ends who are the top 2 options in their offense. They're quarterbackless, but I would still be clicking right now on Pat Freiermuth before you get, be it Aaron Rodgers or any other quarterback. So Pat Freiermuth up 14.5 spots, early round 16, late round 14. You're not going to get anybody stealing Pat Freiermuth on you. And Peter Terranova, love to see you, bud. What's up, brother? Shout out, man. Peter Terranova is tearing it up with the player write-ups for our draft kit that I had talked to you about. So excellent writer and great contributor to Player Profiler. Rachaad White, next up. We don't hate players. We hate ADPs. We love White's ADP this year. We may see a reversal of the value of what we had last year. Bucky Irving was in the teens, and then Rachaad White was being picked in the mid-single digits. Now we could see the value on the other side of Rachaad White. That's what I'm calling, and that's what I think gamers are hot on. Rachaad White up 12 and a half spots. That's one round, early round 14 to early round 13. So this is just jackpot for me. Go and get yourself Rachaad White. He's such an easy click. It's very tough for me to click any other players in that range when I can get him. I've drafted White in startups. The opportunity is there. He's been the guy before. He can be the guy again. Bucky Irving absolutely has earned his skyrocketing value. At the same time, Rachaad White is still going to have a role. And then last, Braylon Allen, he survived. Breece Hall survived, but so did Braylon Allen. So the stock there as an upside cuff, Braylon Allen as a 4th, 5th, or 6th running back. You love to see it. So I'm very happy about him. And then one bonus, Marshawn Lloyd, up around as well, mid 18th to mid 17th on Underdog. I would just say Marshawn Lloyd is, what's the confidence factor? And the fact that the Packers didn't select any other running back, is it more they just love Josh Jacobs? Or is that formidable for Marshawn Lloyd? I would just venture to say that's a little bit of both. There's happiness with Josh Jacobs, but some confidence in Marshawn Lloyd. So this has been Player Profiler News Primetime. If you want to hear a little bit more on Bestball, I have the Bestball Night School podcast at DD Fantasy Football. So go head out over there. Comes out every Thursday or Friday. We record Wednesday nights. So I've had a lot of fun tonight. And go out, see those risers, click on the right players, pick the best players, and I will see you next week.
From the Podfather to you, I deeply appreciate you tuning in. And many ask, what can I do? What can I do to help support the hosts, the research they do, the production costs? Go to playerprofiler.com, Dynasty Deluxe, World Famous Draft Kit, Rankings, DFS Dominator, and of course, data analysis. Subscribe to any one of those, and you support all of us and take Player Profiler to the moon.